Welcome to another great adventure over here on RJB Wildlife. On this adventure, we are at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park where I'm going to be giving you the State of the Park update. So if you're ready for another great adventure, let's go. And today's adventure begins in the entry plaza. First and foremost, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this edition of State of the Safari Park. And if this is your first time, you are about to get a complete guided tour of the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, where we're going to talk about all of the new things that have taken place over the course of the last 2 months and possibly speculate about the future of this facility. And normally, our journey would start in Wings of the World, but we are going to head into the main entry point over here to check in on a fairly new development. And that is because the Hawaiian geese that were in the front of the park are now of habitat. And that's kind of been that way for the last couple days I've actually visited this place. And they're usually in this first habitat here. However, as you can see, that animals off exhibit sign is right here. Normally it's a different off habitat sign, but this is a little more old and retro for this facility. It isn't the only place they're housed, however. They are by the Flamingo Lagoon too. So we can definitely go check those guys out here in a little bit. But we're about to enter the park. Normally we'd go through the aviary, but not much has happened in there. If anything has happened in there, we've covered that at length the last few times. So we're going down a different path today. And this update is starting at an earlier time than usual. Typically we start at around 11:30, maybe noon at the latest. But because the park is open from 8 to 4, we're starting at 10:30 this morning. So it definitely is a little different coming in earlier in the morning than you would normally. But we are about a few weeks away from that ending. And we'll take a look at the app here in a second to kind of give you a better idea of what it's looking like today. Then as far as a vibe check is concerned, pretty chill day. The weather definitely has been a factor in that. And it's just going to get hotter as time goes on. So we're now going to take a look at the app. A little bit of a change of scenery from before, and that's because there's some stuff going on in Mombasa Lagoon. And like I said before, the hours are going to be 8 to 4. That is going to go all the way until the end of this month, so the 31st of August. And then on the 1st of September, you're going to see the 9 to 5s, and that's going to go basically all the way until the first weekend of October, which will be Autumn Festival here at the Safari Park. From there, we're going to check and see what's going on as far as the schedule today. Just a couple things: Botanical Africa Tram experience, Spanish language Africa Tram, as it is Saturday, August 15th. That's what's going to be going on the weekends. And then as far as closures are concerned, doesn't look like anything as far as facilities or like restaurants and anything like that. We'll definitely check on that as we walk through. But Mombasa Lagoon, as you can see here at the bottom, is closed. So part of the reason why we changed the scenery here a little bit. Now that we've gone over the app, nothing really has happened in Safari Base Camp, but the same cannot be said for the rest of the park. So we're going to go explore this area today and kind of check out some of the really cool things that have taken place here. And with Safari Base Camp staying pretty status quo and crowds being a little low today, we are going to make our way to Nairobi Village to check out some of the things over here. And before we leave Safari Base Camp, I did want to check in on the pups. They're all sleeping in there. They're getting huge. You can expect to see a lot of that today because it's pretty warm. Right now we're in about a mid-80s temperature range in the heat season here in Southern California, specifically Escondido, which gets warmer than the coastline over in San Diego, even though last week was blazing. So today we're also going to be kind of taking a look at how you can stay cool here. Lots of misters around the entire park. You don't really get those at the San Diego Zoo all that often. The habitats do, the guests don't. But here, you're going to have a lot of guest path stuff. So we'll be checking out that and how you can beat the heat at the Safari Park. And what you're seeing is really the only major update in Nairobi Village. Mombasa Lagoon is drained. But that's for good reason. They're actually replacing the posts on the bridge here next to the Babirusa habitat and the netting on that little fence along that pathway. So that should be done soon. They're about halfway done with the mesh covering for the fencing. And I'm wondering, this is kind of just a thought, considering Autumn Festival is just around the corner, we're about a month and a half away from that, I'm wondering if they'll put the lanterns out here while it's drained. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if they drain the lagoon to install the lanterns. I know they drain it to remove them, but that remains to be seen. Currently it's drained, so I'm wondering if they'll try to make that a little easier, but at this moment in time, no lanterns quite yet. We're still about a month and a half away from that, probably a few weeks away from them actually installing those. So a little bit of food for thought there, just thinking about it. But that should be done soon. The babirusa will be back on habitat. And I will say, considering that an actual lantern show occurs on this lagoon during the Halloween season and the holiday season, they should be done with this pretty quick because they're definitely going to want people out here for that. And at least the Autumn Festival Lantern Show is very similar to Jambo. It's a finale to the night, and everyone comes over here to view the show, and then they depart and leave. It's the last thing you're going to experience here. So I would fully expect this to be done soon and the babirusa to be on habitat, but it has been a few weeks that they've been working on this. And we're going to pass the Nairobi station. There's nothing new in here. I did get a sighting of Newman a couple weeks ago running around here, but that brings us into the Nairobi Walk, and there's not a lot to talk about in this general area, but there is some speculative stuff that we could possibly look forward to pretty soon. Now, if you watched last week's video, you'll know that the orangutan project is a pretty prominent discussion over there right now. And the same conversations are being had here at this facility. In fact, we could possibly expect a project here fairly soon, within the next couple years or so. Similar in scale to the orangutans, maybe a little smaller. And I know we've heard rumors of the old Flightline Safari check-in space being a habitat at some point. And I wouldn't exactly be surprised if all of that also took up the Flightline area that's not being utilized behind the Bat building here, which, if all of that remains the plan, this could be an interesting thing to talk about over the course of the next couple years, because it would be unknown what could go in this area. So this is kind of what the area would be. You have the old check-in buildings here, there's one here, and then the old educational stuff as people waited in line for the flight line. But what you're looking at is also the old elephant line space. Now this could eventually connect to down this way, where you have Oasis on the rocks here, and then Mombasa Cooker behind Kibo Cones, I'm pretty sure, is that building there. But that's not all, because the old flight line, or at least the training wheels flight line they called it, is back there. You can kind of see the structure there. That's the back half, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, that's the front. So you'd start there and then wind your way all the way down to this side. So it is entirely possible that everything here to back there could be part of this project, depending on when they actually want to do it and what they want to do with it. Lots of interesting things to talk about. That's a pretty good plot of land that's not being utilized at the moment. So fingers crossed we get something cool, but that is still a long ways away. So I wouldn't expect anything soon on that, especially with the zoo's project seemingly here on the horizon. That brings us to Mombasa Cooker, which is now serving some soft serve. And we'll kind of take note of these too. They added these new menu screens that kind of give you a tease of what the menu is. I'm wondering if there's one on the other side, because the lighting on this isn't great. And there is not. So that's kind of the best view. But there's others we'll check out, and they're all very similar to this. And that's about it with Nairobi Village. Not a lot going on. And it kind of lends credence to the belief that the organization may have in this area not having a lot of draws. And I mean, just walking through here, it's pretty empty. I'm the only one really in the village area. And granted, the biggest draw is the lagoon. The lagoon's drained, there's no birds in it, and there are no babirusa to go check out on that little boardwalk. So in time, those will return, but they're not enough to really draw a bunch of people into this area, especially when you have a bunch of other world-class experiences scattered around this amazing facility. I don't know why I didn't notice this, if the theme of this video is beating the heat, but usually these are covered in mist because there's misters in here. They're not active right now, which would lead you to believe it's not warm enough, but I'm already sweating, and I definitely feel like it's warm enough. So we're on our way to our next destination, which is in the northern portion of the park. And just to kind of show you what I'm talking about with these screens, here's Thorn Tree Terraces. Kind of gives you some good options and some of the more unique options you can get here. And those aren't really new. They were around last time. They just weren't fully functional. So now that we can see what they're for and just some of the structures that they've built around them, which makes me wonder if they're going to do that for the Tram, because the Trams is pretty wide open. But at least for the food items and the restaurants, they have them covered up. But as per usual, after we get base camp and the village done, we're going to head into Tiger Trail, Walkabout Australia, and Condor Ridge. And I might flip the order a little bit on you here. Just going to test out a new route. One thing I'm noticing today, having walked through at least a couple areas, granted I've been here since 8 o'clock and I've walked through basically the entire park, I'm noticing that a lot of audio ambiance within these spaces has been turned on, and some of which I don't really recognize. And the entryway of Tiger Trail is not different. It's more so the main path between the habitats A and B, where I'm hearing some extra added bird sounds, specifically hornbills. We're going to go check that out here in a little bit. And there's plenty to talk about with the tigers, let me tell you. But I'm going to let you guys listen to this here a little bit, because it definitely was interesting hearing it during the day yesterday when I was here getting some footage, and earlier today. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm going to try my best here. It could be me, but I don't remember hearing some of these sounds. Like some of the other smaller bird sounds, yeah, but not of those very pronounced ones. So super cool that those are back. But now it's time to talk about the tigers, because a few things have happened. First thing I'm going to point out, Jillian and Dumai are still being paired for breeding, which would seem to indicate the first pairing did not yield the results that many people at the park wanted. So they did try again, I want to say about a month ago. So fingers crossed that works out, because at this point we're still about 3 months away from a cub being born, or cubs, plural, being born. So super exciting, we're getting there, but still a long road ahead. And one other tidbit with that, we are now down to 5 tigers, so they're definitely anticipating for a pregnancy and possibly cubs to be born here soon. Obviously, still a ways away, as I previously prefaced, but the reason why we're down to 5 from 6 is because Diana, the mother of the cubs from the previous litter before Barong, was transferred out to a facility in Texas, I'm pretty sure. So now that we have that, it's just Jillian and Dumai as the main breeding pair. Majel, who's a little bit older in age, she's about 15, and then you have the other 2 cubs, Hutanapu Terry, who are Diana's cubs. So her lineage is still here, but she unfortunately has moved to another facility. And for those wanting to beat the heat here in the Longhouse, this is going to be your best bet. You get some nice chairs and seating over there, tiger viewing in A over there, yard B right here, and then you can get a beverage or a soft drink over here at the Makan Market. As for tiger activity today, Majel was in A and Dumai was in B. I saw Puteri in C. It looks like she's a little active right now because there's a crowd, so I'll try to get footage, but that's going to be the groupings right now. Now, because there are 5 tigers, you're going to see some days where an individual has a double day or a double yard day. In this case, it was Majel. She's been in A 2 days in a row. She was in it yesterday. She's in it today. Yeah, she's over by the door. So it's one of those days they want to be inside. In fact, when they are active in C, it's the best. That vantage point has some really cool viewing and filming opportunities. And this video you're seeing overlaid right now, I believe is Diana. Actually, probably the last time I ever filmed her. So that would be that. Super cool, though, that this is happening. Promise of cubs in the future. And yes, we did lose a tiger because she got moved. So we're now making our way up the Arbor Walk, at least I think that's what this is called, and heading up to Condor Ridge. Usually after Tiger Trail, we'll do Walkabout Australia, but I did want to test this out. Typically, normally when I'm not filming one of these, I'll go down Condor Ridge first. So we'll add that into the equation a little bit. So basically, instead of going left to Walkabout, we're just gonna make a turn right and head to Condor Ridge from here. And not a lot has happened in Condor Ridge. There's a couple new sign additions we'll talk about. But there is one thing I do want to talk about that we could possibly look forward to later this year, which is usually an every other year occurrence. And as we make our way up to the middle set of habitats with the burrowing elves at the very end, they did finally add the hawk-headed parrot sign right here. Ocellated turkeys, hawk-headed parrot, all within this habitat. Now, another little interesting note here is there was a new male ocellated turkey also added here. The previous male passed away, I want to say, sometime before the last update. We talked about it. They moved pretty quickly. They brought in a new male here, so fingers crossed, everything works well. But it is super cool to see 2 turkeys in here again. So as cool as that is, we could be expecting something bigger down here next to the Condor Aviary. I'm, of course, referring to the desert bighorns. And that is because every other year they will put a breeding ram in here. And I believe in 2023 they did it, and then in 2024 they also did it. So last year didn't happen. This year we could possibly expect it again. And in those back-to-back years, a total of 6 desert bighorn lambs were born. So no reason to believe that the same success will not repeat itself here this year. However, it isn't confirmed this is going to happen. This is just based on patterns. And typically it has been every other year, but in 2024, it was unprecedented. They went back to back. So maybe we will, maybe we won't. It is always fun to see a ram in here, though, as it's usually just ewes, and you don't get the namesake, the desert bighorn. You want to see those horns in here. So only other place you can see them is next to the Tram in that big rocky habitat. And the newest addition, Pismo, got her sign up here with the other 5 condors. So it is cool to see that. All 5 condors named over there. And super cool. We're now going to be making our way to Walkabout Australia, where there's, again, not a lot to talk about. It's been pretty uneventful here in the summer at this facility. Another little cool down spot underneath there. The breeze comes up. It feels really nice. So definitely check this out when you get the opportunity to. And as we pass the condor, indicating Condor Ridge, we make our way to the rocks, indicating Walkabout Australia. But before we enter Walkabout Australia, there's one thing I want to point out, and it's a new sign for the World Gardens, which is the only spot in the park I don't frequent or even go in these updates. But you have a new map here that kind of showcases you the trail. You're down here at the bottom, and then all the way at the very end. So that would be your entry point, but it's all just plants, and desert plants at that. So if you want to bake in the sun as you walk up a botanical trail, that was the word, I couldn't remember it, feel free. But we mainly cover the animals here, so that's not exactly an area that we're going to frequent. But we're now about to enter another pretty great shade zone and cool zone that you can just beat the heat in. And that's going to be the wool shed. Now, if you make your way in here, you're going to find your way in a couple of wildlife spots. The one directly in front of me is going to be the Machi's tree kangaroos, and then off to my right, as you exit towards a dead-end area, it's going to be the cassowaries. And of course, you can't beat a nice little water cup. Now, these are free. You can ask for these anywhere. When you get, whether it's a adult beverage or a soft drink at any one of the kiosks or restaurants here on property, you can fill those for free, as well as bring in your water bottle. Just take off the lid, make it easy for the attendants, and they'll get you the ice-cold water that you crave during these warm days. It's been a while. Haven't had anything from here. I have a couple times since Elephant Valley opened, but a lot of the time since I've been here, I just eat there. And it's been hot, so they haven't really been able to open that up recently. So once it does open, I'll definitely be eating there some more, because Tucker Truck still remains one of the best options you can get here, specifically quick service, I will say that. I now want to talk about the platypus a little bit. First and foremost, if you're here in the early morning hours, I'm talking like 8 to 9 a.m., definitely come over here, check these guys out, because the lights will be on. Can't promise they'll be out, or I should say he'll be out, but I have seen it a couple times. So that is still definitely something to keep an eye on. There is still no update on a female platypus coming to the park, however. That I would still expect to be a little less than a year out now, if not about a year out. It just depends on how those conversations are going, if they're being had, and whatever timeline they have for it, and if it's a possible match, because I do know that the goal is to have a breeding pair here, and they want to definitely grow that program here within the United States for sure, if not just here at this facility. So would be definitely really cool to have some platypus puggles running around, which is what a baby platypus is called, I'm pretty sure. I know an echidna is, and they both lay eggs, so I'm just gonna say that, but would be really cool. So fingers crossed, that's in our future. I will also say, since Eve did pass away several months ago, it has been challenging to view the platypus a little bit. Now that there's one, he's gonna be in one part of that habitat, which is split into 3, and whichever one he's in, everyone's gonna gravitate towards. I know that sounds obvious, but when you walk in there and see it crowded in one area, just know you may be waiting for a while, because some of those individuals are very hesitant to move, and a lot of those are kids. And kids, I'm okay with. They can see a platypus as long as they're awestruck by it, but when adults get stuck in there with their cameras and phones and all that, and I know I'm guilty, I do it sometimes, but it definitely will slow things down. So typically, the beginning and end of the day, it's not going to be as busy, but if you're in here in the middle of the day and you go to see the platypus, that's how that's going to go for you. And we're now going to make our way into the Walkabout just to check out some of the stuff in here. And not a lot is going on in here either. It is fun to walk around though. Super interesting. Kangaroos are running around. Although today, it just looks like we got some loungers. And that's typical around this time of day. But again, like with the platypus, if you get up to Walkabout Australia pretty early in the morning, you'll have a good experience. As I did in the video we did talking about the future of the channel a little bit. 2 of those, well I should say 1, got really close and personal. She wanted to sniff me and figure out what I was all about, and super cool experience. But once again, they can touch you, you cannot touch them. That is the rule. And speaking of audio coming back, I thought I just heard a tree get knocked over in this area. This is the tiger deforestation area next to the playground, which you can kind of see right here. Super cool. They're starting to add these audio cues back. Can you believe it's been 5 months since this thing opened? A little over 5 months. And we were here for the opening day festivities of that, and even the grand opening ceremonies for that. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely click the link at the top of the screen, because that was one of the most fun days and the biggest highlight of 2026 so far, among many that have happened and many more that will happen. Stay tuned for those a little bit later. We'll talk about some stuff coming up. But we're now entering Elephant Valley, officially, and not a lot to talk about here either, even though there have been some changes, and some changes will be implemented here pretty soon. In fact, the changes that will be implemented, I don't think I can talk about all that much quite yet. But we will kind of talk about some things that may be coming. But we kind of talked about one that already did come already, and it's a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. I mean, it's an add-on, it's not a replacement. And that change happened right in front of us here with this new dispenser for filtered water, even though the thematic one's right here. So I'm guessing the reason why they did this was because some people roughhouse with this a little too much, and it has, I believe, broken a couple times, or at least disconnected. So a little bit of a shame people can't just behave themselves. I mean, we saw what happened to Shark Encounter with people peeling paint off the walls. Go check out that series, my review series, Zoo Score. And now we're seeing it kind of here, but that still works. It's still functional. They just added a more obvious version of a bottle fill station. At least I'm pretty sure it works. Yeah, you just gotta open it up. But it is not the easiest one to use, so I can see where people get confused. But just hold it there for a little bit. It opens up the valve, water will come out. It's not ice cold like you'll get in some of these other areas, but you will be able to get some cool water there. So cool water, not ice cold. You get those at the restaurants and kiosks, so definitely take advantage of that. And remember when I said misters on the guest path? Well, Elephant Valley is littered with them. Sorry for the bobcat and bulldozer noises in the background. They're working on the west right now to get it ready for this afternoon. But here are your misters. It is a little windy out here, so it's pushing it, but you can see it. And now I can feel it. And it feels really nice. But everyone's in the eastern yard right now because they're working on west. And that brings me to a kind of cool observation I made yesterday when I was here. And that was that in the western yard, at least throughout the day, our new bull, Studla, was in with 5 females, Swazi and the teenagers. Now, because Studla is eligible to breed with all of the females within this herd, they are trying to get as much time with the currently mature girls as possible. With Cami, of course, being the one that likes him the most, and some of the other females taking a little bit of interest. I would still say we're a little more than 2 years away from a calf being born, and I mean, fingers crossed. We hope one comes sooner than that, as there has been heavy breeding activity between Cami and Studla essentially since he arrived here. But time will tell on that front, and we have a lifetime to enjoy calves in the future with this brand new world-class space. Speaking of world-class, how could I forget Mkutano House? The food there you're going to get is exquisite. And we're actually going to go check out a couple things because things have changed a little bit over there. We're going to talk about the Ona Lounge a little bit because we dined in there yesterday. Of course, I didn't film any of it for you. And the reason I want to talk about Ona Lounge is because every time I've dined in there, it's been a quiet experience. Not to say that it shouldn't be, but you can tell that it doesn't get that much traffic. And I have talked to a couple people just to inquire as to why it's not more popular than it is. And every time I've kind of been queued up here waiting to get into Mkutano House and someone inquires about the lounge and the $10 cover charge is brought up, it typically steers them away from going into the lounge area, which is a shame because I think that is a highly underrated space up there, and it's got some really cool food options, which, based on what I observed yesterday, you could actually get the normal Mkutano House downstairs options upstairs. That didn't used to be the case, and I would assume the same thing is right in the inverse. So the $10 charge just to sit and eat up there is scaring folks away. Not only that, but you also have the fact that it's 18 and over. It's an adult-only lounge. And everything you can get up there, minus a couple of food items, you can get downstairs. And a lot of people are going to opt to go downstairs because, in their eyes, an upstairs view looking at an elephant pool is no different than a downstairs view looking at an elephant pool. And I'm actually kind of showcasing the difference right now because Micaiah, the youngest female here, had a little bit of a pool party yesterday evening. And I was upstairs for a portion of that and then downstairs for another part of it. So the goal is to make Ona Lounge a little bit more popular and busy. And I would expect that to happen in time. I don't know when that's going to be. One thing I will also say that is affecting Ona Lounge a little bit is the hours of operation here at the park right now. You're looking at 8 to 4 p.m. That's going to go until the end of this month. Typically with lounges, and you kind of see this at Disneyland too, Oga's Cantina notwithstanding, but the Lamplight Lounge, a lot of people go in the evening. They go in the afternoon. Sometimes they'll come off work, they'll go, and that's the only thing they'll do is the Lamplight Lounge. That could be something present here, and it just isn't because of the way the hours are. So as we get into the holiday seasons and the parks open later, I'm hoping this building is as well. And with that, we'll be able to see a little bit more of a flexible Ona Lounge where people can go up there and chill. Now, if they did want to change the structure a little bit, maybe eliminate the $10 fee, they could do that. I don't view that as a likely option, but it is on the table. They could do that, or if they choose not to and they keep it, which I would fully expect them to do, maybe they make it a part of the membership tier perk. That would be a really nice addition and something that would definitely get a lot of traffic up there, because the $10 fee, I think, is keeping people away. The 18 and over is keeping some of the families away, and some of these parents don't have the luxury to have grandparents here and escape for an hour, but that is just a couple of little ideas. I'm hoping in time Ona Lounge can be a little more popular so they can have it open all the time. Speaking of pool parties, those have been just about a daily occurrence. Usually in the time that everyone's here, one will get in the pool and have fun, but I have been told that a few hours after the park closes, all 8 of them will be in the water. So definitely something I want to see, and definitely something I wish the park was open later for, but doesn't appear to be the case. I've only ever seen one in the pool at a time recently, but we're now going to check out Mkutano House here in a second, just to kind of see what it's like. I will say, outside's looking pretty popular. Definitely some traffic out here. And the inside is as well, just a couple empty tables, but it looks like a booked house today. This is always great to see. And 2 Grill even, it's got a nice crowd over here. They did add this new shade structure over the self-serve kiosks, so that's definitely going to keep those screens from getting damaged. But that's about it from Mkutano House. The main restaurant, nothing new. It's going to be basically the same. But we could expect to see some changes with Ona Lounge coming soon, and the 2 Grill as well, as they've definitely taken some of the feedback from guests, even though some of that feedback I'm kind of miffed on, but it's all right. It is what it is. And that will do it from Elephant Valley. We are now going to head off to the left here and head towards the Savannas, check in on all of the numerous yards that are present at this facility. And in those yards, there's been a lot that's gone on recently, especially in Asia. Some exciting things going on there. A lot of babies been born. We've been covering those for the last couple months. Or really, I should say like month and a half, because I haven't been here for a good number of that time. But lots of babies. We're going to talk about those here shortly. And possibly some offspring we may soon expect. Obviously, nothing confirmed quite yet, but they're definitely working their way to adding some breeding programs here to this facility, which is super exciting. And once you get to the flight line view here, you'll know you're right by the Savanna yards and this giraffe. And for those of you that haven't seen this view, East Africa is all of this, and Asia is all over there. So in Asia, we have a couple really exciting developments with 4 new additions. 2 of those are black buck. 2 females arrived here. They're in the Central Asia yard. Now, they will soon be introduced to the herd over there, and I believe there are a couple males. So if those males are mature, we could be expecting some calves out there. They have not been introduced yet. They're still in Central Asia. So hopefully that happens soon. But even more exciting, there are 2 Indian nilgai females that have been brought here that are also in Central Asia. They're going to go into the main Asia yard for breeding as well. The only problem is there's no male here quite yet. So fingers crossed a male arrives at some point here pretty soon, and you'll know because they are very different from the females. Much larger, different in color, and they actually have horns. So that would be amazing and exciting. We're going to keep an eye on that here on the channel, so keep an eye on these updates. You'll definitely see if that nilgai shows up. And one other really cool thing in Asia, it does appear that the Nilgiri tahr had 4 kids born, one of which very recently, I would say within this week, and it was all hiding away, so I didn't get great footage of them. But the other 3 were running around like crazy, so definitely really active in there. The rhinos were chill. Lots of deer species in these habitats, so if you ever get the chance to go into Asia, or even around Asia, because you can take the cart safari or the wildlife safaris, which I typically do the wildlife safaris. You got to do the deluxe version, because the deluxe wildlife safaris are the only ones that go into Asia, and you can get really close to some of the rhinos in there. So definitely take advantage of that if you're able to. But right now, we're going to transition to East Africa. A couple rhinos hanging out right here, just hanging out. But I want to start with the southern white rhinos, because unfortunately, we did lose one of them. And that individual was Utamu, who was a 29-year-old rhino. She was probably the easiest one to figure out who was who in there, because she had what was called the lobster claw horn. And it is unfortunate that we lost her. So she will be missed out here. But a lot of other new things happened in these yards that are a bit more exciting and not as somber. Among those, there were 3 wildebeest calves born out there, so that herd is growing, and the one in Central Africa is also growing. We'll get to that in a second. On top of that, a new male roan antelope was added to this herd. That's a pretty big group in East Africa, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see some calves there soon. And then, in what was a little bit of a surprise, there is now a new Thompson's gazelle calf out there. This will be the 4th one born so far. And it is pretty small, so be on the lookout on the tram, on one of your safaris. And with September upon us here in a couple weeks, I do want to bring up that for members, Member September is going to be coming up here, which is a little bit of a celebration, if you will, during the month of September. On the weekends, the park will be open an hour earlier for you, so you'll be able to access the park at 8 a.m., and you'll be able to stick around until the park closes at 5. So you get an extra hour. And your usual perks, the amount off you get on merch and food, doubles during this time. And that goes for the entire month. So definitely take advantage of September if you are a member, because a lot of really cool things are going on here. So we are heading into Lion Camp. And I want to see if... Oh my, hold up. I see some silhouettes. I think all 4 are out together. If this is the case, this is the first time I've seen it. It is. This is crazy. Okay, so you got Bo right here. There's one of the females. They're pretty close to each other, nothing going on. Got another female up here on the wall, right by the glass. Okay, I don't know if you can see him, but he's right here. I don't know if you can see her. She's right here, one of the 3. This is astounding. This has been about a 2-year journey for this place, so this is astounding. The fact that they're this close together and this calm. Now, 2 weeks ago, I saw a picture of this from a volunteer who was sitting here. I did not get the opportunity to see this. So you can kind of tell, definitely draws a crowd here. And that's just that viewing area. With all 3 girls up at the glass, this is kind of what you're getting right here. So, Lion Camp is back. This has been a major undertaking, and this is a huge accomplishment. So for the first time of me seeing this, I'm ecstatic. This is awesome. But also, congratulations to the safari park. This is the first time I've actually seen them all together, middle of the day, on a Saturday with peak crowds. How much better can 2026 get for this park? At this point, we're here. We got there. He's just hanging out over here. The females are up by the glass. Lion Camp's back. I mean, not completely back, because we're still missing the Jeep that used to be out here, but Bo's right here. The 3 girls are up on the glass. And no aggression at all. This is amazing. We've made it. I mean, absolutely historic, what we just witnessed, the fact that all of them are together. And they're within a pretty close proximity of each other, no aggression at all. I will reiterate, though, no cubs will be born with this pride of lions. They're all related, so that's definitely going to hamper some stuff, but super cool that we don't have to play a game of whether or not one or all 3 of the girls are out. They're going to be out. I don't know if that's going to be permanent or a regular thing, so we'll see. But as of right now, that looks to be a promising sign. So super exciting. Let's go to the tram. And as we are at the Africa tram, let's go check on the line, which doesn't look all that crazy right now. We've seen this crazier, but definitely looks like all the interior is pretty busy. And by the looks of things, it's about a 30-minute wait right now, which means they're probably running several trams, as each one is about this length. So maybe they're running 3 or 4, maybe 5, based on how long the line looks. So pretty busy in here. Small line outside. Looks like it's slightly growing, but priority boarding also looks pretty big right now. So we just got off the tram. A pretty chill ride. Not really a lot going on, but there is a lot to talk about in those yards, and I want to start in South Africa. And the main reason I want to do that is because yesterday when we did our wildlife safari deluxe tour, we went into Asia and South Africa. So I was actually able to get pretty close to a lot of the wildlife within that yard, which was super cool. I've been in all three, or really four, of the yards that those tours go in. But in South Africa, we have 2 sable antelope calves. They've been born out there. You'll see them with the parents, so they're not nearly as difficult to seek out like the original pair were way back last year around this time. And not only that, there was also a Ellipson waterbuck born out there. So he's also a little older, but super cool to see the babies out there interacting with one another. In the bachelor habitat, the addax were actually moved in there temporarily. I don't really have footage of them because they're very hard to spot in that habitat. Reason for this, their habitat's undergoing maintenance, and it's the same maintenance that we've seen happen to the bird habitat in there, and some of the other numerous smaller species habitats, specifically down here in Africa. So all that anti-predator stuff, that's kind of what they're doing with the addax at the moment. Soon they will be back there. While the addax are in the bachelor habitat, the zebras are off display, so you won't be able to see them, and they did have a foal born. So as soon as that foal was born, little after that, they moved them off habitat. So that's a tad bit unfortunate. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to see those zebra foals. But on to another species, of course, the Somali wild ass. I was witness on a recent Tram, not this one, to actual breeding attempts in there. So fingers crossed, this critically endangered species will have more babies in this habitat. There were 2 born, I want to say a year or 2 ago, sometime in that time frame. And I'm excited for more because it is super fun to see a lot of these critically endangered species have offspring overall in an effort to save their population. And finally, I want to talk about Central Africa. Central Africa right now seems to be in the same place it's kind of been. You have the herd of wildebeest, and I don't know if a new male was added to that herd. I didn't see any of the smaller individuals recently, but this big male has been kind of off to the side by himself, so I don't know if he's new, but that is kind of going to be the main population in there. The Ugandan kob are still in there. There's still 4, but that's not all. There is a new addition in Central Africa. We've been waiting for this moment, waiting for it, and the new addition is a Thompson's gazelle. This one's a male. I'm guessing just a bachelor, or they took him out of the East Africa habitat with all of the breeding that had been going on in there. So, of course, we did have that other calf born. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. So now you have Thompson's gazelle in Central Africa. We are still awaiting word on possible new species going in there. I wouldn't expect anything imminent, but still exciting that a new species is in there after it's just been the kob and wildebeest. And as we head into African Outpost, I want to make my way to the first habitat with the Nyala, because there's a couple updates in here, specifically as it pertains to the male and maybe a new calf. So in the last couple weeks, the male was in here. He kind of resurfaced. We knew he was in here for a while, and he was kind of behind the scenes. But if you're watching the footage now, you're probably wondering why his horns are trimmed down. And that's because he had an infection, and they had to be shaved down. Unlike deer and other species like that, horns don't grow back on antelope. It's bone. So he's going to have these horns, and unfortunately with this infection, they're not going to grow back after being addressed. But that was short-lived. I had only seen him for a little bit. Now, there's a new calf out here, and it's a little guy, probably all of a week old. And he's running out here with the females, so it is super cool. They're kind of cycling between 2 groups, it appears. The male was in here with 2 other females, and then you have this group of females with this new offspring and some of the younger offspring from years past. So super interesting that we have this situation now with the Nyala. So that's super cool. Baby boom is continuing here at the safari park, as we kind of mentioned with all of the other habitats we've checked out. But everyone's favorite quartet, and of course I'm referring to the cheetah cubs, no longer on habitat. They went back to the Carnivore Conservation Center, which is why crowds don't look as prevalent here. When the cubs were here, there were crowds everywhere, and rightfully so. But right now, you've got the normal rotation of cheetahs, and unfortunately, no more cheetah dogs. And that is because the last of the cheetah dogs here at the park, by the name of Ray, she was the Rhodesian Ridgeback. At least I think her name was Ray. If it wasn't, correct me. But there were two. You had Ray and Willow. Willow was a yellow lab. They unfortunately both are no longer here. They've been retired. And with that, so has the cheetah companion program, with Elvis at the zoo being the last one. So it really is the end of an era here at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, and really the San Diego Zoo as well. These cheetah companion dogs have been a big part of the story with cheetah conservation, and now that this is being phased out and this chapter has been flipped, we're now moving into a different era. And with the Carnivore Conservation Center having a lot of success breeding cheetahs, and the overall program here having success, and really the programs across the country, which we'll explore a little more as time goes on, this is starting to become a phase-out situation. And unfortunately, it's been retired here. It's been retired at the zoo, and it's not expected to be picked up anytime soon, or ever, for that matter. So that's about it with the cheetahs. The cubs are not on habitat, so don't expect to come by here and see them. They're not going to be. They're going to remain in that conservation center where there are a lot more cheetahs. The ones you see on habitat are the ones that have been part of the cheetah runs in the past. That is also a situation that's being kind of retired, phased out, even though they do it intermittently. I think they're trying to pick it up again with some of these younger individuals they have. I can't remember the last time I've seen a cheetah run. I think it was Elephant Valley's opening day. I'm pretty sure. Not to say they haven't done it since then, because I'm sure plenty of you probably have seen it. But it's definitely been few and far between. So here's to hoping that they bring it back, but I wouldn't say that's entirely likely. We are now making our way to the lagoon, and this area has become a bit of a bummer lately, and that is really because of all of the stuff going on with the native predators in the region. In fact, yeah, you can kind of see that there, that new mesh fence. Oh, it does look like the cranes are back on habitat, though, as a result. So the demoiselle cranes are back in here, but you have to view them behind this mesh, which if I peel back, that's kind of what we're talking about. And this is all in an effort to keep the birds safe from the native wildlife. And from what it appears, they've only addressed this one. This used to be marabou storks, and they didn't have a problem, but then they put the world's smallest crane in here, and they had a problem. So kind of unfortunate that these are the measures that have to be taken now, especially since in the history of this park, which is 54 years, just about 54 years, this hasn't been a problem, but it is now. And it is what it is. I mean, still get to see amazing wildlife and some of these awesome birds, but behind this, a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. That also seems to be the only one affected. Look how swampy this looks. This actually kind of looks cool. But yeah, no, that's going to be there to protect those birds. But I want to talk about this lagoon space a little bit, because another thing I've kind of been hearing about projects is it could be anywhere down here in the Africa section now. Where else would you do it? And with all of the native predator stuff going on in this area, I could almost fully expect this lagoon to get drained and altered. Because this used to be hippos. This used to be a hippo habitat when this place first opened. That has since not been the case. I couldn't walk here if it was still hippos. But I could definitely see them alter this into something else. And it is a pretty sizable plot of land. You could do something very cool here. And, I mean, you've got a pretty sizable plot of land. All of this. Some of those lagoons there. Not saying they're doing this. I'm just kind of off the top of my head thinking this. But you've also got all of the other lagoon stuff over here. You got an island there. The former Lesser Flamingo Island over here. Marabou demoiselles over there. But again, you could turn this into something big. But that's about it with this lower lagoon area. Nothing. Maybe one day it gets turned into something, but back in the day when you had the monkeys on the islands, you had the flamingos down here, it was alive. There was a lot of cool stuff. So we'll see what happens. It is a positive sign that the demoiselle cranes have made their way back to that habitat. I'm just kind of selfishly hoping they don't mesh off the rest of that boardwalk, because if that's the only way you're going to be able to get birds on there without the risk of the natural predators, then I think that area may not be long for this world, because you're going to want to make something that probably isn't as obstructing, best way to put it. And if the things I've heard are true, that could be a pretty sizable plot for a certain species that's already here. There's not a lot to talk about. Right now, orangutan seems to be the focus, but everything else is kind of blue sky concept. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it's essentially just dreams and wishes. Things that we want to do. All that stuff is going to get dumbed down based on reality, and it's a negotiation. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, it looks like we have an exciting future to look forward to. And we're now making our way to the vulture habitat, where a new species was added, and that new species is a Cape vulture. Those guys you could see previously on the Tram exclusively. Now they're out here. They're also with a pair of Ruppel's vultures, which I believe are the same two, or two of the three that were in here. With that though, as you can see, new mesh barrier to match everything else they've been doing. I wouldn't exactly say this one's bad. They did some renovations to it a little bit, but not a ton. So super cool though. We do get 2 species of vultures in here. Previously it was just the one, but they weren't the only additions. There were a few birds added to the secretary bird habitat in the form of blue cranes and yellow-billed storks. Both of these species of birds, the blue cranes and yellow-billed storks, had previously resided in here. They did get moved off somewhere. They do have breeding programs behind the scenes. You can see yellow-billed storks on the Tram. Blue cranes, though, I believe this is the only spot outside of behind the scenes. So, very cool. We get an assortment now. This was empty for a very long time. The secretary bird was gone. There was a lot of just generic birds in here. A long time ago, you had Cory bustards in here, even though they're still on the map. They're not. You have secretary birds instead. So, still super cool, but you're starting to see a little bit more added to these habitats, at least here. Lagoon is still pretty barren, but got a nice variety of birds in this area. But now we're in African woods, looking at the okapi habitat, where probably the most exciting baby arrival happened. And we did cover this last month, but I did officially see him for the first time. Monzoto, who is the new okapi calf, big boy, was on habitat with his mom, Melly, not too long ago. Very energetic, very big. I mean, he's big for an okapi calf. So it was super exciting to see him out here, and I love okapis, hence the icon for the channel, or the mascot for the channel, okapi. So super cool. This will be the 3rd calf I have seen at either park, which I love. I love okapis. They're the best. But that's not necessarily new. What is new, though, is there was another, if not 2, Garanut calves born out here, and they're just running around. They're having a good time. They're getting big now since we saw them initially, and you can actually see them in the habitat across from the okapis. Pretty energetic. Really cool situation over here. But that's about it as far as these species are concerned. The Summerings gazelles had some major updates up here. We're going to head up there right now, and that is because now you can actually see them in 2 habitats. They are in the kudu habitat here, and then their normal habitat off to the side. So as it pertains to the Summerings gazelles, they are in both of these habitats. They did put a breeding group in the kudu habitat. Along with that, though, the female kudu have been removed. It is unknown where they're going. I had heard some speculation that Central Africa may be a good home for the greater kudu. The male is still in here, though. So that's definitely something we're going to be keeping an eye on if they are deciding to make that move. The Summerings, though, now are housed next to each other, so there's a big breeding group over here. So they just transferred that group over to the kudu habitat, and it remains to be seen what will be happening with the kudu in time. So super exciting. But we've just left African woods. We're going to make our way to Gorilla Forest to conclude this guided tour of this facility. Would you look at that? They got rid of the gorilla cart. So that's an empty lot now. Granted, I'd never seen it open, so not like it's a huge loss, but now just some empty space that they may or may not use. And now we are in Gorilla Forest, another area where there's not a lot going on, but a lot to anticipate. So first and foremost, something that we're not really talking about all that much, and that's the Joanne situation. I'm going to talk about it here because it's very important in the possibility of another silverback coming here. And the reason for that is you don't want a brand new infant baby gorilla with a new male coming in. The new male is going to want to establish himself within the troop itself. So as a result of that, you're looking at a very interesting timeline. It could be sooner, it could be later. We won't know until the Joanne situation is resolved. And by resolved, I mean if we know if she's giving birth or not. Obviously, and I'm saying this on my end, I'm saying this because I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. I would assume her care specialists absolutely know. Actually, I'm not even going to say I assume. I would expect they absolutely know what the situation is. So, reading the tea leaves here, if a baby is born, it should be in October. Should be. However, if it's not, then you could expect a silverback to arrive in some time. And if by some time, keep in mind, Winston, when he passed, it took about a year for Paul, Don, and Jessica to come over here. I don't know what the holdup was with that, but if that's the kind of timeline we're talking about, then I would expect it to be somewhat similar. However, if this situation happens and we have a baby gorilla here in like a month or two, that's going to get extended. It's going to get extended. So we don't know. It's all up in the air. Based on everything that I have heard to this point, I would fully expect that a new silverback is far more likely than a baby gorilla right now. But you never know. Things happen, and it's very hard for someone like me on the outside to just gauge if an animal is expecting or not, especially since I don't work with the animal, and I am by no means an expert on gorilla anatomy or biology. That's probably a better way to put it. Biology. So we will see what happens, but it is kind of up in the air right now. Nothing's expected. And, of course, if you want to know when something happens, just follow the channel. You'll find out. And that's Gorilla Forest. Nothing major, nothing crazy. And I'm hopeful that we can expect something exciting here in the future, especially since the last couple years for the gorillas has been tragic, to say the least. And hopefully there's a brighter future ahead for them. As of right now, can't expect anything. And as we've exited Gorilla Forest, that's going to do it for this edition of State of the Safari Park. So many things that we witnessed today that are super exciting. The lions finally together. I got to see that for the first time. The elephants, we're seeing some progress there. Maybe some exciting times at Mkutano House as you make your trips here. And, of course, the many babies that are being born in these savannas. So when you're making your trip here, definitely come check all of those things out because you will not be disappointed by all of the amazing wildlife you'll get to experience here. That's going to do it for today. If you had fun on this adventure, please hit the like button. And if you would like to embark on future adventures, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell. And until next time, I hope to see you all again on the next adventure on RJB Wildlife.